Hi, everybody. Welcome this evening to the Harrison School District 2 Board of Education meeting for October 26th, 2017. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Members of the public who desire to address the board on any topic related to board work, please sign the roster in the back of the room before 6:15 p.m. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Gonzalez?
Here.
Ms. Lee? Here. Mrs. Longmire?
Here.
Mr. Siebert?
Here.
Mrs. Torres?
Mrs. Torres, I believe, is on her way, but until she arrives, she is excused.
Mr. Amos?
Here.
Miss Major?
Right here. So thank you very much. I understand for our Pledge of Allegiance and mission statement, we have some scholars from Harrison High School here tonight. So please come on up and everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then our students will read our mission statement. Is it on? Let's see. It's tough to be the first one up at the microphone. Good. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Sean McDonough, and I'm a senior at Harrison High School. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I know, they put the flag on the other side.
Hi, my name is Leilani Sloan. I'm also a senior at Harrison High School. And our mission statement is to graduate college and career-ready students with knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors to personally succeed and contribute to the common good.
Thank you, Leilani. That was fantastic. Give him a round of applause. Mr. Siebert has got some certificates for you, and we usually take a photograph. So if you would pose for Christine here so we can have it for posterity. I know. Go Panthers. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. So members, have you all had an opportunity to review tonight's agenda?
Yes. Yes.
Any questions or comments?
No.
I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda as stated.
I second it.
Moved by Mr. Siebert, seconded by Mrs. Longmire. Any discussion? No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and let the record show that Mrs. Torres has joined us. Bless your heart. How are you doing?
Hola.
Hola. And so the next thing on our agenda is Principal Martinez and her team, her matching team
Nice.
from Harrison High School. Welcome. I know, those are super cool.
Gotta get one of those.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Spencer. We are excited to be here this evening, and thank you for the opportunity. The first thing that I would like to share are these two scholars here, Sean and Leilani. They are our drum majors for our award-winning band. And just so you know, I had an opportunity to watch the band at a regional contest last week, where they just missed being the regional title by 0.1.
Oh.
And they are currently ranked in the top 3 in the state and stand a very good chance to win it all.
Nice.
So, and it wouldn't have happened without the leadership of our two drum majors. So,
And when are the championships?
yes, I believe they're going to be performing at 8 or 8:30 in Parker, Colorado on Saturday.
On Saturday.
Saturday evening.
Okay. It's very
Yes.
important to note that it's on
It's Monday.
Saturday.
Oh, I thought it was. There you go.
Was it?
So it's
Okay.
on Monday. It's this coming Monday.
This
Oh, it's
Pardon me,
coming
I thought it was
Monday.
this
Okay.
Saturday. It's
We
even
got an
better
email
news.
from Mr. Basalian earlier today, this Monday, October 30th. Okay. So for those of us who can make it, it sounds like you all will be performing at either 8:15 or 8:30. And it's kind of an hour and a half trip up to Parker. And so for those of us who can be up in Parker, I'm not sure that I can be on Monday, but it would be fantastic to get some presents there because we're super excited.
We are too.
And so that was their work also at the rival game on the field, yes?
Yes.
That was fantastic. I just have to tell you, that was insane. That was nice. It was very nice. I'm proud of you.
So best wishes, and we can't wait. We're in it. All right. We are going to start off our evening with a video. And so Miss Holland will go ahead and cue that up. I just thank Ms. Holland for getting me so emotional and wanting to cry right before I present. I appreciate that. It's always a good feeling. That is actually the first time I've seen that, and wow, that's
It's
just
pretty
good work.
exciting. I want to know who it was that got taped up to the wall.
That was one of our math teachers.
Oh,
Yeah.
what did she do to get that?
It was a reward.
Oh, for the students. Got it. Okay. You guys are a little strange. Awesome.
So there you have it, a little student life at Harrison High School. Okay, we'll start off with background information and some of our demographic data. We're currently at about 978 with 78% free and reduced lunch. Some of our demographics below, predominantly Hispanic, 49.28, which is really interesting because since I've been there, that's shifted by about 15 to 20%. So it's been interesting to see over the years that dynamic change with our student demographic data. Love the diversity. And as usual, our district mission, vision as well, which we're really honing in on that bullet number 1, to graduate 90% of our students from high school on time and college and career ready. Currently, we have an 85.7 on-time graduation rate. We're proud of that, and we continue to grow that every year, and we think that we can accomplish and will accomplish that 90%. Mr. Lawrence will talk more about the college and career ready when we're talking about SAT here in a little while. And of course, our awesome district goals. One thing I'll say about bullet 1, something that we're doing a little bit differently this year to invest our department chairs, members of our cabinet that have been at Harrison the longest, and some of our best leaders and teachers, is they are now taking on an instructional leadership role. In addition to principals going in and assistant principals going in and giving feedback, along with Ms. Lance's team, we have 12 members of our cabinet that are going in classes, particularly first and second year teachers, to give them additional peer feedback, non-threatening, just to boost the levels of support at Harrison High School. And it's really been great to see them being challenged by this and grow as well from the opportunity. And here is our mission, and the border are the IB learner profiles. I love our mission, you know, because it's multifaceted. It really does talk about the emotional and the social aspect in addition to the academic, you know, mission that we're on, and it really does very closely mirror our district mission, which makes me happy as well. Our problem of practice, I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to read through this. There's 2 slides here. We've kind of changed the framing of the problem of practice through Ms. Lance's great training. So it's more of a story based on data and what we're hoping to do with our practices. I think ideally we were hoping to transition the role of the teacher of that of a facilitator, putting the onus of learning on the students, of course, you know, through guided inquiry. And again, looking at the larger picture, using some of our global perspectives, identities and relationships, orientation, space and time, scientific and technical expression, globalization, sustainability, just to name a few. Something too that I thought was just an easy one to share. You know, we're working on units of inquiry with our teachers, and really that just means exposing our students to an experience where they can build the knowledge themselves versus the traditional sit and get the knowledge. One example is earthquake simulations, where we have students research, design prototypes, revise, build, test, kind of that iteration where there's some robust failure, and then redesign and evaluate. This is our position statement at Harrison High School. Scholarships continue to be a big focus. I know that our counselors are in full force already working with seniors on filling out those applications, inviting kids for the Daniel Scholarship, some of the biggest ones that we have in our region. So that work has already started, and we hope to earning scholarships more than we did last year. Every year we've gone up, probably from about $50,000 to $100,000, and we expect to do the same this year. All right, now we'll talk a little bit about our park results from last spring with our ninth graders. We'll start with math. Sorry, that's a bit small. You can see we've got our middle schools up there along with our high school, and at first glance, you would look at that and think, oh my goodness, what's happening here? The high schools are so underperforming in terms of looking at the middle schools. And I would note that those results from the middle schools are our AP students. Those are the kids that matriculate up, that end up being in IB, our calculus AB, BC classes. And we're so thrilled that they're getting the preparation that they are getting at the middle schools, so we can continue to grow them as well. You can see that we went up about 7 points in math with our integrated one. Remember, these are on-level kids or kids that are below their math level. As our ninth graders that are honors kids, they are taking the honors 2 integrated math. The results with the integrated 2, sophomores that are on level or above level, went down a bit here to 55%. And now just taking a look at the longitudinal growth. It's interesting because with the English scores, we beat the state by 3, which we always want to do with the achievement. But in looking at student-to-student growth from 8th to 9th grade, didn't grow them quite as much as we wanted to from year 8 to year 9, even though we beat the state by 3 points. So it's really kind of interesting to look at the contrasting data. While math did a great job of growing 8th from 9th to 55 percentile. Mr. Lawrence, we'll talk about the PSAT and SAT.
Good evening. I'm excited to talk to you about our state test at the 10th grade and 11th grade level, starting with PSAT. So this was our second year with PSAT. If you can see, 2016, we scored 888, and we've gone up 892. Ms. Martinez mentioned college and career ready benchmarks. So College Board states that a 910 is college ready. In other words, you would be 75% likely to make a C in a college class. So our goal, of course, is to meet that requirement and then even beat. If you look at SAT, which this is our benchmark year, starting over here on the left side, you'll see that our composite score was a mean of 949 compared to our district, which does include our charter school, James Irwin, 945, and then our state at 1015. So we're really excited about this. This makes us feel like we're competitive and that we can meet and beat the state next year. One thing as well that is noticeable, if you look right here on the next slide, we've got down here on our essay portion a 98% essay participation. And then come over here and look at the state at 18th. So we are excited that our students are participating, that this is something that they believe in. One thing I did want to note back here, if we look at our school and our 949, the concordance table that College Board puts out says that this would equate approximately to about an 18.5 or higher on the ACT. The 3-year trends for us have been 18.6, 18.3, and 18.7 last year. So what this says to us is on a new test, we're not going backwards. We're actually maintaining. Thank you. I feel the same way. All right. And then additionally, when it comes to our writing, we're close to the state at a 5, a 3, and a 5 respectively in those dimensions of reading, analysis, and writing, and then close to meeting the state in the analysis component right here.
All right, and looking at our AP exam results, just some highlights. I'll have you look through some of these and we'll take a look at some graphs. Last year was the first time that we offered an AP class for freshmen. And you see that it says for all course. In the past, students had to be recommended, they had to have a certain GPA to be in an AP class. And if that was the case, it wouldn't start until their 10th grade year. Last year, I think we had 6 sections of AP Human Geo for 9th graders and maybe 2 just on-level sections. So that was really exciting. And this is our second year, so we're excited to see the growth. Computer science was the first year for that as well. I like the savings, $191,000 in savings. It's pretty significant for our scholars. And some of the graphs.
Let me stop you there.
Yes.
Let me just ask you a quick question.
Mhm.
We had our first passing scores in AP Computer Science. That means passing scores on the test.
That's correct.
Got it.
Yep.
And then $191,000 in savings on what? I guess I'm not really understanding.
So
in
for
terms of
every
coursework.
scholar that passes with a 3 or higher, then that class will be considered done in college, as it will have transferred to a college or institution. They won't have to retake that.
So that $191,000 is based on the cost of a credit hour at a state
Absolutely.
school or something like that.
Correct.
Got it.
Multiply that by all the credits, by all the students that passed. Yes, correct. Mhm.
Okay.
Great
Thank you.
question. Mhm.
Does that include the cost of the exam itself, or?
That I'm not sure.
Okay.
That is a great question. I know that we're very fortunate to have our district pay for our test here. So,
Nice.
The answer.
thank you, sir.
Probably is no.
Okay, so it'll be interesting this year, this spring, to take a look at this, but we're projecting probably closer to 50% of our student body will be enrolled. Again, we're close to 1,000 at Harrison High School, and it's kind of fun to take a look at 2010 to see how the AP program has progressed and grown. It really just has a great academic feel to it and seriousness with our scholars. Number of students that scored a 3 or higher or scored a 3 on multiple tests. You can see again, nice trajectory with that going up. We want our enrollment to grow, but we obviously want our results to grow as well. And so, wow, 13 and 15 in 2010, and we're pushing 150, and it will be well over 150 this year. AP Scholars, so you saw in the video that Ms. Holland made, us delivering those signs to our AP Scholars. Those are those special students that are able to score 3 or higher on 3 or more exams. Basically, these are students that their schedule would stop a train. It's pretty challenging schedules that they have, and they're able to go in and not just pass one, but multiple tests. And so very, very excited about those students. All right, Ms. Holland is going to talk to you about our IB program at Harrison High School.
Hello.
Hi.
So we started our IB candidacy last year and have pushed through. You're given 3 years to get through your candidacy. We did it in 1, and we now have already applied for the authorization visit. We submitted that on October 1st, and it went through. So we are right here where that arrow is as far as the process goes, and we will be getting our verification visit in the spring when IB will come down and talk with our teachers, our students, our staff, and we did not receive any reds on our preliminary visit, which means we were all set to go and didn't have anything that we needed to address at that point. So we're pretty confident about being verified in the spring.
So do you have a date when that verification visit is scheduled yet? I know it's a ways away yet.
We do not. We've been
Okay.
assigned our team that's going to come visit us, but we do not have the exact dates yet.
Would you let us know as soon as that is? Because I know we had some presence at Sand Creeks, and that would be fantastic.
Of course.
Thanks.
So this is how our professional development has looked different at Harrison this year now that we're an IB school. Our IB coordinator actually built our professional development as if it were an IB unit planner to model that for our teachers. So they have their own binders with planners and reflections the same way that our students would, and that's how our PD is delivered. We have brought in professors from UCCS to work with our teachers on guided inquiry and robust failure. He's come and presented twice and then gone individually to 3 PLCs with different departments to talk with teachers about their lessons specifically on how to make that more inquiry based. Other topics are global questioning, visible thinking. We're really encouraging our teachers to think outside of the box and to find that balance between being very skill driven and very inquiry driven as well. Last year we did a pilot of a personal project program, and this year every sophomore in Harrison will be doing a personal project. What this is that they pick any topic that they are interested in that will impact the greater good beyond themselves and beyond Harrison, and they do this outside of their classes. Every staff member in the building is a mentor for 3 to 5 sophomores, and we just kind of guide them and be a resource for them, but it really is driven by the students. And then they will be presenting their projects in February. These are some of our topics that the students are already talking about doing this year. Last year, our pilot program included how art can empower the homeless, increasing tourism to third world countries, and developing different video games and apps as well. And beyond IB, we also have a lot of other great things to celebrate at Harrison. So I'll let you read through this list. We are very, very proud of the first one, now being a silver medal school in U.S. News and World Report. We were bronze and kept pushing for that silver, and we finally got it. So, of course, now the goal is gold. And these are some more of the things we are celebrating right now. The last one, it says top 6 in the state. We just found out today that our football team is ranked number 1 in the state. It fluctuates based on our, their strength of schedule and things. So some days it's 3rd, some days it's 1st, some days it's 6th. So it kind of fluctuates on that. But we have a big game on Friday if you want to come down against Pueblo East. It's a real important one for our football team at 7. And then we really do want to invite you on Saturday. We are having a zombie run for the first time. It's a zombie 5K. It starts, or walk, or run, walk, crawl, whatever, depending on where you are. I'll probably be crawling. But that starts at 10, so you need to be there around 9:30, 9:45 to register. And all the funds for that are going to one of our football players, Myron, who was diagnosed with cancer over the summer. All the proceeds are going to his family to help pay for medical bills. So that's a really important event for us this Saturday if you're able to come and support. And if you're not, we are happy to take donations for Myron and his family as well. And that's all we have for you. Do you have any questions for our team?
I don't. That was very thorough. I appreciate it. I appreciate the focus on problem of practice, and I also appreciate the focus on IB because that was on my list to ask for an update on that. That's very exciting. Does anybody else have any questions or comments related to Harrison's presentation?
Do you have to be dressed up like a zombie to run?
You do not. That was one of my questions as well. We do have some people who are very excited to dress up, but no, you don't have to.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I will look forward to an invitation to the spring exhibition. That looks very interesting.
Yes, we would love for everyone to come. All right, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it, and know that we are rooting for our Panthers this weekend. It's been a very exciting season so far, and I know they're working really, really hard and keeping up with their schoolwork at the same time that they are rocking it on the football field. So thank you all. Okay, so next up tonight, we have a presentation by Kim Redinger from Entrada School-Based Health Clinic. Come on up. Welcome, and Heather Lee as well. I'm sorry, I'm missing that. Norma may have some.
Hello, board.
Hi there, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Kim Redinger. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can,
Okay.
and we have your slides up here on our
Fabulous.
devices, and so it
should
looks
I
like
go
Norma's
over?
getting you set up. No, so just go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm a physician assistant employed by Peak Vista Community Health Center, and I've been with Entrada for 8 years, and I dearly love that place. Very excited. I love what we've done so far, and I think we've got a lot more work to do, so I look forward to that. The clinic has been open now for 11 years. Moved to our new space in 2010, so 7 years there inside Carmel Middle School. So we try very hard to keep all of our data and our information for the kids really relevant to their health and to their well-being and academic success. The idea of a school-based health center is to keep kids in their seats and ready to learn, whether it's medically having trouble or behavioral health. And I'll let Heather speak to all the wonderful things that they're doing. Let's see, I'm trying to remember here, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'll just tell you what a school-based health center is. It's a medical center within a school or close by a school. It runs like a little mini pediatric clinic is what it does. And we, and then of course have Aspen Point there with us. It's just oh, thank you. Okay, I can scroll. One moment. I do want to use these two quotes really quick. This is from our National Association of School-Based Health Centers. The school-based health centers exist at the intersection of education and health and are the caulk that prevents children and adolescents from falling through the cracks. I think that is a fabulous visual, and I could not say it any better, so I'll leave that one alone. And then we have a really strong Colorado Association of School-Based Health Centers that really works at the legislative level to help us. Their mission statement, keeping children healthy in school and ready to learn. Again, I can't say that much better either. And why do you have a medical clinic or a behavioral health clinic in a school? Is to keep the kids where they spend most of their waking hours. It's convenient. It reduces health inequities for those who may not be able to afford it. Reduction of barriers. And we'll see them regardless of their ability to pay. Let me see. Our advisory board is a very strong board that helps us to decide what needs are there and if we're meeting them appropriately. And Mike Russell is the head of that. Who is eligible?
Keep going.
Okay, who is eligible?
Oh, no, I'm telling her to keep.
Yeah, it's quite a ways down. I just have jumped around there. You're good. So who's eligible? We've tried really hard to make it a very inclusive nature to the health center. So as long as you have one child enrolled in school district 2, you can bring all the siblings with you, newborn through 21. And insurance is not a factor for the medical side. And I have to say, for kudos to Peak Vista, my employer, there's about 16% of the population that I see that it's either uninsured or otherwise not able to pay, but that's all written off. So I think that's a pretty marvelous thing that they've been willing to continue over the years. Sorry. Okay, now I'll switch there. Medical service data from 8 of 16 to 7 of 2017, 2,309 students served, 55% are return patients, average of 10 students a day, and we try and keep that lower so that we're able to spend a lot of time with the students, unlike a regular clinic where you are expected to run through a lot of students very quickly. So I love that. And we're seeing pretty much all of the students from the different schools. Who are we serving? Small percentage is the 0 to 4 year of age children, and then we increased to 18% for the 5 to 9 year olds. And where we really spend our time and energy is the 10 to 19 year old children. And that's where we just have a blast, and that's a lot of the sports physicals there, a lot of repeat. So I put on here the average teenage brain because we're able to spend a lot of time talking about anything and everything that you can fathom. Like when I take my 17-year-old in for her physical, it's a really quick physical, just doing, are you able to play a sport or not? And I love that we're able to spend time with the kids and get through everything that you can imagine talking about that they don't like to talk about, but we still talk. What are we seeing at the clinic? 37% well children, or for physicals, 39% acute. That would be illnesses, injuries, those sort of things. And 24% will come for only immunizations. And this is a kudos to Russ's team, the nurses and health aides. In August of 2016, the unvaccinated children in D2 was 16.73%, and as of May of this year, 6.32%. So very exciting.
Wow.
Nice.
There we go. Insurances, I'm seeing primarily Medicaid and private insured people. It took me a while to figure out why privately insured folks were coming, but they don't have to pay their co-pays, easy to get into, so that does make sense. And that's where I got the 16% data from uninsured or undocumented. And yeah, that's good. We'll just end that. So for the future, obesity, 38% of my population is obese. So we're working very diligently to find ways to help. Funding is of course always an issue. We're trying to find low cost, equitable ways to find healthy food, convincing people that daily exercise is a needed part of their life. We're working with Care and Share to see if we can come up with a food bank of sorts inside Entrada, food truck to come to Entrada once a week or once a month, and cooking classes all through Care and Share. The YMCA at Southeast has a fabulous program that we're very interested in, but it's $160 over a 4-month period for obese children. So again, we're as a collaboration trying to find funds to offset that. So Peak Vista's grants department is looking into that as much as they can. Sexual health, I still have access barriers for low or no cost birth control and testing and treatment for sexually transmitted infections. So that's something to continue our conversations about. I think it would be good for Entrada to be more involved in the wellness team, because it could be that we're all doing things that we're trying to duplicate. And maybe I need some sophomores to come up with programs for us. So any questions?
I do have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you visit all the schools in D2 to advise them on healthier lifestyles and that?
Not at all.
No. Okay. And I'm just going to ask why or why not?
I don't know that I have a reason. I think maybe I've been just staying at the clinic as the medical side, and maybe I have never had that thought. a great idea. And I do, that's part of school-based health center goal is to get into the schools to educate. You know, like we've done a variety of things on immunizations or lots of different things, but that's just been with Carmel, but I would love that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. That's
Yes.
fair enough.
Anybody else?
I was gonna ask, I noticed that CHIP Plus was only at 3%, and I know that CHIP Plus is supposed to be ceasing January 31st of 18, and so I was curious if you would see an increase there. But if your number is only 3%, I don't know. And Medicaid's kind of rolling, and so as families get employment, then they generally move over to CHIP Plus. And so that CHIP Plus family, if the funds are not re-upped and that program goes away, and I noticed that you said insurance wasn't a factor, would they fall into that category?
Absolutely, to be seen at the Entrada Clinic. As far as Peak Vista, they do have a program where they'll scale it back according to your wages. Yeah, I don't know.
And another, just a curious question, if families come from outside of District 2, say District 11, I'm just thinking about, just CHIP Plus going away and all of these people without health insurance, are they able to be seen there, or do they have to be D2 residents and students?
Yes, for our program, it has to be a District 2 student. And for D11, that would be going through Peak Vista, which we do get a fair amount of phone calls for that, and we direct them and assist them in finding a primary care or an after-hours clinic through Peak Vista. So, yeah, more calls.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
desperate people. I will turn it over to Heather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us. My name is Heather Lee. I am the current supervisor of the school-based clinic in District 2 for Aspen Point. And this is just kind of an overview of the services we have offered in District 2 over the past year at the various schools that we serve. Obviously, there are a lot of programs that are open to children and adolescents, as well as the families that are referred through the individual schools to our programs. Our therapists are on site in several schools in D2, and then we also have a shared clinic space with Peak Vista at the Entrada Clinic, where we do have after hours for families as well as for children and adolescent visits. We offer a variety of services, all cater to behavioral health and mental health. That includes groups. Several of our groups have to be done mostly at the Entrada Clinic due to, I think, a very wide issue in the state of Colorado in that schools don't have space. So it is difficult to offer groups in many of the school settings due to space issues and privacy and confidentiality issues. So we have tried to move that into the Entrada Clinic to make those things available for, to meet the needs of all the students and the families that District 2 serves. A new program that we introduced last year is the Substance Abuse Services Program. It's a very broad program. It works with substance use disorders, addictions, abuse issues, and has a very wide breadth of services attached to it. It currently is the most underutilized program across the district at this point in time. We also provide assessments. We don't always need to provide behavioral health services for every child or family that's referred, and that is based on an assessment service. In order for the children that we see and the adolescents that we see to receive services, they must meet medical necessity for that service. If that is not met, we will work with them to refer them to other locations or other providers that might better suit their needs and be able to provide what they're looking for. We have crisis services available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That has been open for a couple of years now and is always accessible to the community, which includes anyone in the district. That would include our Lighthouse Service Center, which is up off of Parkside Drive. And then we just opened the Woodman Clinic up off of Woodman and Powers. So that is a new location that's farther north, but is also accessible to the entire community. We have a dedicated crisis response clinician who responds to the schools. Most people know him in this district as Mobile Mike, Michael Vaca, and he is wonderful. In the event that he is not out, there is always somebody covering his position that can respond to the schools that are in need of crisis services. So he literally comes to do the assessment on site at the school. In the event that he is not available, there is also the CRT team that gets called out to the schools, and that's also the decision made by the district. We also offer life skills training across the board to our youths. We have a program with the YMCA that includes a membership. You participate in a group, but it does include a membership that is free of charge as long as you're participating in the group itself. And that's meant to increase physical activity, to decrease symptoms of depression and anxiety. It builds teamwork and social skills for kids and youth that struggle with those particular skills. So we also have job placement assistance, and we offer educational services on top of what's already given within the districts themselves. So we have appointments that are available for one-on-one tutoring. We also have homework groups for after school that are drop-in that run later into the evenings. Our psychiatric services are available to any person that is referred to Aspen Point through the district. And that can include an assessment. It also includes medication management, as well as we have on-site pharmacies that can provide the medication that's being prescribed, if that is something that is what the family decides to do. We also participate in restorative justice programs with the state of Colorado and El Paso County. We have care and case management coordination. Really what that's about is linking families and students to services that they need that they may not be getting in their communities at this point in time, or they may not know that they're available. And so that spans all of the state resources, county resources, local resources, and private resources. This past year, we served more than 500 students in the district schools, in the District 2 schools and the Entrada Clinic. 416 of those were unduplicated students. They were new students to the Aspen Point referral process and mental health system. Currently, we're at 8 schools in District 2, along with the Entrada Clinic, which is staffed at 40 hours a week. We actually do spend more than 40 hours in the Entrada Clinic, and gladly. There's a lot of people do like that clinic. They show up to that clinic. It's easy for them to access. It has after hours appointments that are available, and they feel very comfortable there. So we're happy to spend the extra time at Entrada to meet the need of the community. Schools last year were contracted for a 3-hour block of service at their individual locations at the 8 different schools. That has changed. This year, they have increased that contract to 4 hours. This year has started off with a bang for referrals. We are already up past current numbers from last year by about 30% in referrals, which is hugely significant. And I also think very telling about the needs of the community and their willingness to gain access to the services that are available, and the wonderful people that you guys have working in your district that really support them and their families. So we're very grateful for that. At this current point in time, we do have wait lists at 5 of the 8 schools. They're full. And so we are looking at expanding services as soon as possible into those schools to meet the needs that are available. Or I'm sorry, to meet the needs that are current. We have added a lot of trauma pieces to our schools this year, and that is not just for families and for children. That is also for the staff members of the school and for anybody in the community. We're offering a lot of trauma trainings in order to help us better understand what we're seeing when we're seeing behaviors in the classrooms or behaviors in the school, or when we're seeing kids who are not coming to school, why that might be. And so that is something new that's on our agenda this year that is open to the district, however they see fit to take advantage of that. We also are offering additional educational and training tools tailored to meet the individual needs of the school itself, their staff, or the district. So what that really looks like is if we have high incidences of ADHD in a particular school setting, we can meet training requests to provide interventions to the staff that you have in your schools to better help them understand how to manage that behavior, how to make it a productive behavior, and how to decrease instances of classroom outbursts because of that, that difficulty that the student is having within a classroom setting. So it's not a mental health intervention, it is geared towards the school and their setting. And let's see here, we have a lot of new programs that are coming up, so we'll have a lot more to share in the future with all of you. We're always trying to increase our services. And since this presentation was put together, we have one new update. And that would be, this is Dustin Copenhaver, if you would please stand up for a moment. He is also one of the supervisors on the school-based team that we have expanded. So we now have 2 supervisors that are accessible to D2 and all of their students and staff.
Well, thank you. That's very exciting. Entrada is obviously a really important part of what we do here at Harrison, has been for a long time. But pardon me, and I may just be forgetting, has Aspen Point been involved from the beginning?
No.
How recent is that kind of partnership there for the behavioral health part?
For the behavioral health part, I believe we started providing limited services in 2013.
Oh gosh, so it's longer than I thought.
It's longer, yeah. But I believe that they were very limited at that point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this is significantly more than I kind of remember relating to behavioral health, and it's a really important part. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have I'm sorry, go ahead, Joyce.
Do you feel like your staff is pretty stable, like they stick around and get to know our families and build relationships with their families?
We try very hard to have a stable staff. We suffer the same consequences that a lot of mental health agencies do. We've taken a lot of steps to improve our staff retention rates, and I believe that we do have a stable staff at this point in time, and I'm hoping that they stick around for a really long time. They're a great team of people.
My question is there a common trend of, I guess, specific types of problems that you see with our scholars?
Yes. Are you all familiar with the ACEs research that's been conducted?
Heard a little bit about it.
We do see a lot of so the ACEs research is becoming ever more present and popular in the school systems because it really does shed a lot of light on what our children have gone through and where their experiences are negatively impacting their lives, and that includes where they spend most of their time, which is at school. So based on that research, we are seeing a lot of trends within the trauma pieces. There are a lot of trauma pieces within our community, and I don't think that that's different across the United States. I think it's just a problem that's been maybe underserved. Mm-hmm. But from that stems a lot of symptoms of depression. We're seeing a lot of symptoms of anxiety. Some of that is social anxiety. Understanding how much social media plays into the lives of our youths and the negative impacts it can have. It has lots of great positive impacts, but it also has some negative impacts as well. And bigger pieces to that are the escalations into suicidal ideations, where we end up losing our students and our children. I think those are our most important trends that we're seeing throughout the United States, not just throughout the district or throughout Colorado.
Yeah, that's what I was curious about. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are the students can they self-refer, or how do they get referrals?
They actually come referred through the contact points at their school. Most of the schools have several counselors on staff, and those counselors make the referrals directly. Students can ask to be referred. Several of them are very well aware of our presence at their school, and we do get students who will ask their counselor, can you please make a referral? I really need to see somebody at school. And that has been very helpful. The other referrals are made by identification by principals, teachers, counselors. They come together, they discuss and decide whether or not this would be an appropriate referral at that time, depending on what they're seeing or potential high risks or behaviors that are really distressing the student. And so there are multiple avenues, but they all come through the school system itself, through the counseling department typically.
You mentioned wait lists. Is that because there's a heightened awareness and your presence is greater there, or?
I think it's twofold.
People just, or are the students or the referrals or the individuals that are being referred are just that much more willing? It's sad to hear that there's a wait list, especially when it comes to anything related to mental health, because when somebody's ready and they've accepted that I want help, you have to seize that moment. So I'm hoping that you guys can find space or more people, whatever it is you need.
So there's a couple of components to the waitlist piece. Most of the waitlist issues come from we're contracted for a small amount of hours, and that's what kind of creates that flow. We have a lot of need throughout our state and throughout our country for mental health services. I think we had a great experience with D2 last year. We had a great experience with the students, with the families, and with the staff at the schools. And so I feel like it's a multi-systemic referral process that's happening, and that we were able to serve a lot of students. And so it's becoming something that's more widely acceptable. The stigmas are really going down in the school districts and in our environment, which is helpful. We're seeing a lot more students reaching out for help. With the waitlist pieces, a couple of very important components to consider is high priorities are never waitlisted. And it's always given back to the school to make that decision. We're always willing to refer them to one of the immediate, you can come over here and get help, or you can choose what you would like to do. So those are put back to the individual schools depending on the need that they see for that child or that youth or that family. And then the decision is discussed with the family and the child as to what step they would like to take next. So while we do have wait lists, there is still access that they're able to get at any point in time at any one of our locations.
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, of the 416 students that you saw, what type of incidents or percentage would you say resulted in a prescription?
Actually, very few. I would say probably under 20%. I would say it's probably even less than that, just off the top of my head. Most of the I would love to actually pull the data on that because I think it's fairly low. Most of the kids that are receiving services at school have not been referred to psychiatric providers, whether that be the choice of the youth or the choice of the family, or they were referred and the psychiatrist said, I don't really think this is necessary. I would prefer you to continue in treatment. Let's check back in 30 days and see if, how we're doing and if we really will reevaluate essentially. But I would say the percentages at this point in time are low.
Thanks.
We could probably go on for hours, but we have a few other items that we need to get to tonight. So thank you very much for both of you for coming and the rest of your team for coming tonight, and know that that your participation in this program in our district is making a difference in an awful lot of kids' lives, and we really appreciate that. So moving on to a completely different topic, it's going to give me whiplash, changing from one to another. We have item 5.1, a resolution for refunding of the general obligation debt. Shelley, I believe, is going to your name is on the item. Do you want to introduce it, or do you want to just pass it off to David? Oh no.
I want to stand up and
sorry.
No worries. Good evening. We're excited to be before you tonight again to talk about our refunding of our general obligation debt. I have a team of folks here with me in the front.
Sure do.
row who I will have them come up and present themselves. And really it's to high level go over any questions you may have in regards to the resolution and the action that will be taken this evening. So David Bell.
So David, before you get started, just generally, we had an extensive discussion at our last work session meeting wherein we all became familiar with how refunding bonds worked and all sorts of charts and graphs related to this particular interaction. So we're going to not bore all of you, I think, with a lot of this conversation, but just know that we have had some in-depth discussions about it. So if you could just give us just a pretty high-level discussion of what it is that we're talking about doing here tonight, then that would be much appreciated. Welcome. Thank you.
And I think we were all experts, not just familiar.
I'm not willing to go down that road
Because
just yet.
the coaching was outstanding, as I recall. So real quick, it's good to see you guys again. We have been very, very busy these last few weeks. Let me just make a couple introductions. Kim Crawford from Butler Snow, Karen Howland, and Dylan Pease, all from Butler Snow. They are your bond lawyers. And since they were nice enough to come down this evening, I'll refrain for the lawyer jokes until after they leave.
Yeah, we'll be nice to them.
And then we won't let them come back anymore. So I think you guys have the few pages that we put down. So let me just kind of walk through kind of where we're at. We have been, as I said, Shelley and Scott have been rock stars here the last 3 weeks. They have spent tons of time trying to help us get documentation prepared. So we've put together all of the financing documents. We have put together the official statement. We're now at a point here this evening where we would ask that the board consider adoption of a bond resolution, which will then allow us to kind of move forward here with the rest of the process. Assuming that you guys are good with that this evening, we have a couple of steps left. We have a call scheduled next week with Scott and Shelley on the rating agencies, Moody's Investor Service. That's sort of the credit profile that the district will have, kind of like our own personal credit score. Once that gets done, the plan is then to take the bond issue, which is essentially the refunding program, and offer it to investors about the middle of November, with the goal of closing this transaction by November 30th, which is the day before you make your next payment of bonds. So all of the existing 2007 bonds will be called, go away, just like we talked about with the home loan program, right? We pay off the old, do new. Mathematically, I think we're all still in pretty darn good shape. If you go to page 4, sort of a quick update of where we are if we were to do this today. Still about $2.4 million of savings to the taxpayers because we're doing this, and about $275,000 a year over the next 10 years. So everything is still on track. It's going along quite nicely. We can keep the federal government from talking about tax policy for another few weeks. I'd be helpful about that because we don't really know what it is they're talking about, and I don't know that they do either, but I think we'll get through that. It'll be fine. So with that, if you have any questions of me, great. I know Ms. Crawford would love to read the resolution to you word by word.
No,
but we can probably
that
have a
won't
more
be necessary.
useful and effective use of our time.
Yes.
If we just let her say in her chair.
I think the upshot for the public that may be paying attention tonight is that we're essentially refinancing some debt that we've got. We have 9 years left on the bonds that we have out, and by refinancing them, we can save about $275,000 a year for a total over the remaining life of those bonds of almost $2.5 million. Almost 2.5. If you up, it's almost $2.5 million.
And we may actually get there before we're
absolutely. And so when our council made us aware of this opportunity, we had some very quick discussions about it, and it became clear that this was obviously something that we were interested in pursuing, and the superintendent and his staff have jumped on it, and you guys have worked diligently to get it done, and we very much appreciate that because that is a significant amount of money that can be redirected into classrooms and into the things that are important for our district. So does anybody have any questions for David or the rest of his team about the resolution that is included in your packets? No?
Okay. No, I think we covered it all pretty well at the work session.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about it, and because the resolution is a little complicated, we've elected Steve to make the motion. Steve offered to make the motion, so I would entertain a motion relating to item 5.1.
Well, I would move to have a resolution authorizing the issuance of General Obligation Refunding Bond Series 2017, approving the forms of escrow agreement, paying agent agreement, continuing disclosure certificates, and official statements, authorizing the board president superintendent and chief financial officer to make the final determinations and to approve forms and agreements and other documents, instruments or certificates as they are deemed necessary, and to take other actions in conformance herewith.
I second.
Moved by Mr. Siebert. Thank you very much for reading all that. Seconded by Mrs. Longmire. Is there any discussion? In particular, is there anybody in the public who wishes to make a comment on this particular item? Any more discussion up here? No? Okay.
I just wonder if it would be nice to kind of explain exactly what the public will get for this. You said something about it will go into classrooms and specific.
It will save it'll save the district from having to spend it. We have not determined exactly because it goes into future years, so we haven't set budgets in the future years. So we haven't determined that, but one can only imagine.
So we
But
did
you'll
do,
get that question
we did do sort
when
of a
we talk
rough
about
calculation.
bonds.
I think we talked about this last meeting, that for every $100,000 of home value, it's about $3.50. So
True, and I remember that.
This is all fun when you can save somebody some money and keep them from having to
Exactly.
overspend. So at the end of the day, what we're doing here is that we're saving your taxpayers as opposed to overpaying your bondholders. That's kind of the easy way. to
Well,
look
that's what you should tell people when you go out and talk about the bond. We're saving you tax dollars.
Yes, and in
That's
fact,
what
you
want
are.
us to
So
tell
that's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a motion on the table and a second as well. So I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Perfect. We will be down next
Congratulations.
month to tell you how this finally ended up. So appreciate it.
We look forward to hearing more about it.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and thank you for waiting for us to get to your item. Moving on to item 6.1, comments from the public. We do have one person who has signed up to speak during our public comment section. Members of the public who desire to address the board on any topic related to board work are welcome to do so at this time. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes, to appoint a spokesperson if the concern is a group concerned, and to supplement verbal presentations with written reports if necessary or desired. Personal attacks will not be allowed. Although the board does not respond to any public comment, we will review the information presented and provide responses as needed. And so I have Lisa Hewitt, who has signed up to speak. Fantastic.
Sorry about my children.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you for being patient and waiting for us. I went through a little bit of a section here talking about the, so you've got 3 minutes to stop shot. So,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, my question is that we live 1.7 miles from the school and my son is walking to school, but the policy is 1.5 miles and then you get a bus. But we don't get a bus, and I was told that it's 1.5 miles in a straight line from point A to point B. From my house to the school is 1.5, but that's how the policy is. A child can't walk 1.5 miles in a straight line to a school from their house in the neighborhood. It's impossible. You can't do it. You can't walk a straight line. You'd go through people's yards, people's garages. You can't do that. I can't expect my child to do that. So I'm not understanding why we can't be provided a bus.
So I read the section earlier and it talks about we don't necessarily provide a response in this kind of an interaction, but we have your information.
Okay.
And have you talked to anybody at the school or anybody in transportation yet?
I have talked to Dave in transportation. I have talked to Christina in transportation. I have talked with the assistant superintendent's secretary, Esther. I have spoke with Mr. Richardson over at the junior high school. I'm really not sure where to go.
So we will connect with the appropriate staff and make sure that they connect with you and make sure that we get a resolution, some answers to your question.
Thank you so much.
And figure it out.
I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming here tonight, and thank you for being patient with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. So moving on, item 7.1, which is our annual work plan. Have you all had an opportunity to review the annual work plan that was included in your packets?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, I want to say how impressed that I was by the state of the schools on October 10th. The luncheon was fantastic. Thank you all to the staff who put it together. I'm a particular fan of Dr. Bailey's, and I thought that some of the things that she had to talk about workforce were really enlightening, and the students' performances, of course, as usual, were fantastic. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any other comments or questions on any upcoming items?
I do not.
Okay, and in our November meetings, we'll hear from James Irwin Charter Schools, and then we have a significant number of monitoring and indicator reports to get through. We've gotten kind of a nice respite from them over the last couple of months, and now they start back up again. So, okay, moving on to legislative updates. Joyce attended the CASB Legislative Conference and Delegate Assembly in Denver earlier this month, and has some updates for us about what went on at that conference and what we can maybe look forward to or not look forward to at the upcoming legislative session. So take it away, Joyce.
Okay, well, this is my favorite thing to do, so I'm going to miss it. This is my last delegate assembly. And as you know, we have 178 districts in the state, and we did have 66 delegates that were represented this year. I'm always disappointed by the turnout. Last year we had like 73 or something. But we did have a lot of rural schools represented, which I think is really important. There's 12 regions in the state, and we're called region number 6, and we had 24 resolutions. So this is really interesting. If you've ever been to one, you really feel like you're in the democratic process. And I won't go into all the pros and cons for each resolution, but I thought I would just tell you about a couple. One is, and this is for CASB, the Colorado Association of School Boards. So CASB voted to repeal the Claire Davis Act, and of course that was a kind of a controversial one, but some of the phrasing for reasonably foreseeable harm, school districts felt was like legal quicksand. So if something happens and this goes to court, there is no defined limit onto what this would be. So that was an interesting debate to listen to. Another one, CASB voted to support, this was a close one, 35 to 31, to support the modification of the requirements of Senate Bill 191, which has to do with our test scores. So usually it was like 50% on teacher evals. Now it's a range of 20 to 50%. So it kind of works with our ENR. One of my favorites was CASB supports full funding. This went huge, 63 to 1, for full funding for Individuals with Disabilities Act, the IDEA Act, and we also added the ECEA Act into it, Exceptional Children's. So instead of getting 17 cents to the dollar, we'll get 40 cents to the dollar for those kids. Some of you might be bored by this. I love this stuff.
No, it's important.
It's very fun too. October count, the legislature shall direct the CDE to collaborate with districts and charter school boards and superintendents to develop a system for counting student enrollment that is more than our usual October count. That passed 37 to 29, so we're adding a second enrollment count day in February for districts so they can make midterm adjustments. So that was good. I love this one. CASB urges the General Assembly to grant automatically and unconditionally to all public school districts identical automatic waivers and relief from statutes and regulations that are enjoyed by charter schools. That passed 48 to 15, so that was good. That really didn't have a lot of debate. The controversial one, of course, has to do with marijuana and how the public really believes that all of that money went to schools.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the CASB believes that the legislature needs to realize that CASB feels that the voters assumed the money was going to education, when of course we know it didn't. So passed 51 to 13. Let me find the words here. CASB advocates that all annual marijuana excise tax collections be allocated to building Excellent Schools today. That's the best program, as was the intent of the voting public with when recreational marijuana was legalized in Colorado. So we had quite a long debate. We had one gentleman, I forget what district he was from, but he came up to the mic and he was adamant that money from pot should never be used with scholars. And so it got very heated discussion, and it was interesting. And the last one for all of us who get para benefits, this was a good one, 58-6. Passed. CASB urges Colorado Governor, the General Assembly, and PARA Board of Trustees to undertake all necessary steps to ensure that PARA remains sustainable and effective vehicle for our retirement benefits. So anyway, I love going and happy to represent the district.
You can come next year. You
I
don't.
just-
You
I
can be. You
absolutely-
can. You don't have to be on the school board. You can come anyway.
I would love to work with CASB or something. It's fascinating.
Well, CASB is a really strong advocate. It has been a pleasure to become familiar with what they do, and their advocacy is really strong. And so we really do look to them to provide leadership around these issues in the upcoming General Assembly. So you will hear more about some of those things and some other important issues as the General Assembly gets closer to convening in January. Does anybody have any questions for Joyce on her adventure up in Denver? Where was it? Was it at a downtown? Was it a hotel?
Marriott Park.
Yeah. Good.
By the shopping center.
Anybody have any questions?
You remember that part.
By the mall.
The only other update that I have is as it relates to the Senate Bill 1326 that I've the Community Justice Reinvestment Act, that they are getting closer to being able to appoint the community board that will allocate the $1.3 million that will come over the next each year over the next few years to community groups for crime prevention initiatives. We're estimating that will probably happen by the beginning of next year, and I know there's a lot of interest in participation on that community board, and so we will keep the district informed as to what that looks like, so that we can, if there's any opportunities for funding any programs through the district, that we could have an opportunity to participate in that. Other than that, I just want to commend, although our Harrison team has left, I participated in a tour with Senator Bob Gardner of Harrison High School that was organized by our she's here. Yay. She's here. She moved over to the back. The rest of your team left, but you got to stay, sadly. I did. It was organized by Teach for America and was focused on the role of TFAs in our schools. But it was an opportunity to showcase Harrison High School, one of our district high schools, to a member of the legislature that has been frequently critical of public schools and is generally a supporter of charter schools and school choice. And it was, I have received, I told Principal Martinez this earlier, I've received feedback from a number of sources, not just from Senator Gardner, who I've seen a couple times over the last couple of weeks, but from other people saying that he was very impressed. And I want to thank Principal Martinez and Dr. Burhansel, who were there, as well as the members of your staff who were there, who spoke very passionately about their work in Harrison. I was moved. It was a fantastic afternoon, and those kids, AP Government and AP, what was it, Calculus? I think pre-calculus. I can't remember. Oh my goodness! Like, I have a whole bunch of people walk in, and they just they're still doing their work, and they were not paying any attention to us. So thank you very much for that opportunity. It's those kinds of interactions that help make this stuff come to life, because when we can capture the attention of legislators and make them understand what's going on in our schools, it really changes how things happen up there. So, okay, moving on. We have at our last work session, item 7.3, we had some conversation about kind of an emerging issue that we've been dealing with over the last couple of months relating to this year's ATU. and as it relates to salaries for our ESPs. And it has become clear that that there were some challenges related to the ATU process, and there needs to be some additional discussion of some budget-related items at the board level. And there was the board called a July 10th special meeting, and out of that meeting came a direction, a vote by the board and a direction to refer the ATU back to the CDMT, to our, collaborative decision-making team. I always want to say collaborative decision-making team. We have had some conversations since then relating to the CDMT's role. And considering that we've gotten some feedback from the CDMT, including from Mrs. Longmire, relating to their concern that they may not come back to us with a different recommendation that they had the first time. I would like to discuss, and I will move to change an element of that July 10th vote to take CDMT out of the loop, to continue to include a discussion and revisiting of our ATU process for this upcoming year, and then also included our November work session discussion relating to the budget issues that we talked about, and ESP salary increases and things like that. But to take the element of referring the ATU back to the CDMT this fall off the table, to allow the CDMT to focus on the work that they have before them, which is significant this fall. So that's essentially what I'm introducing. Would like to have some discussion. I know Dorina has some feedback relating to the CDMT's work. And then Yesenia, I know this was kind of an element of your concerns around this. So
yeah, just staying in compliance with what we previously adopted as a board. So, not referring it back to CDMT, we are essentially then going against what we adopted and said we were going to follow. So that's where that comes from.
Yep, exactly.
So my input was at the work session, our discussion was referring it back to CDMT as if, and my take on it was as if we were going to get a different result. I don't see how that's possible, having been on the committee and done the work with CDMT to find a different proposal as far as whether or not there could be more funds, because CDMT does not determine how many funds can be given for employment or whatever it is. CDMT is a recommendational committee. It's something that I always have stressed, and Dr. Spencer has as well. At the beginning of each year, we stress that it's a recommendational committee of the board, just as DAC is, to go and research projects and do subcommittee work throughout the year, and then they bring the recommendation back to the board. We can either approve it or not approve it. This year, we could not approve what was recommended as a raise for CDMT, for certain employees on CDMT. We couldn't because we didn't have the funds to do it, knowing that we were losing some funding through grants and things that were expiring these in the coming years. And so to send it back through that same loop, I think kind of would be fruitless. As far as determining, whether or not we could find more funds, we still couldn't do that. And so that was a discussion that we had at the work session, and I still would stand by that, as I'm sure Dr. Spencer would if he could, if he had to say anything about it. And the committee, we couldn't find more funds to do anything else with at that point. So to send it back, I think it would take them off course for the work that's upcoming. They started, I believe, yesterday. I intentionally didn't go because I will not be serving on that committee. And so I just don't see how that would be fruitful, frankly.
Any other discussion?
Well, and I have to agree with President Gonzalez. We don't want to enter into or even have the guise of a negotiation. This is not an element of negotiation back and forth with the CDMT. This is a board matter, and to stay within policy, we had to do it that way. But we need to resolve to not enter into that type of back and forth.
Yeah, that was an element of.
I've got to agree with what.
Yeah, that was an element of my concern was just that. Now, I do have some significant concerns about the ATU process that I share with Yesenia, and so we need to make sure that going forward that's the timing works out differently. And I think that's an element of our November work session discussion that we'll have on this topic. So any other discussion?
No, I
Deanna?
just wanted to be clear that in no way was this motion intended to enter into negotiations with CDMT. Simply following the policy that we, as the board, adopted. That's where this came from. And so
Yeah.
that's all it stems from.
Okay.
I want to be clear on that.
So with that, I'm going to move that the board rescind the elements of its July 10th motion and vote regarding referral of the ATU back to the CDMT in favor of a November work session discussion on a number of these issues, and asking staff to bring to the work session the information that we need to have a thorough discussion of the ATU process, the budget elements that came into question in July, and then that the board needs to have a conversation about the relevant board policy, the number of which I do not have here in my head, the relevant board policy, and see if we need to make some adjustments to that to make the ATU process more clear. That's a stupid, ridiculous motion, but it's on the record and I'm sure you'll get it figured out. So,
Second.
any discussion from the public? Any further discussion from the board?
Just to clarify, it's board policy GC5.
Thank you.
Section B, subsection 2.
Thank you. All right, absent any further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so that was probably merits a little bit more discussion about exactly how we set this up on the November 7th work session agenda, and so we can kind of have some more conversations about how we operationalize that and what order we put them in and what makes sense. So thank you all very much. I know that was kind of circuitous, but here we are. So next, moving on, we have our 7.4, our board scholar representative reports. Roland, I know I'm going to ask you to go first because I know that you're usually just chomping at the bit. Well, not usually. So, Roland, why don't you go first and tell us what's going on at school? Other than that, you have no homework tonight, which is good because it's 7:30 already. Yeah.
Well, so besides the amazing fact that I have no homework, which I'm so excited about, we have a food drive coming up at our school. Naija's going to tell you a little bit more about that. I'm not going to steal it from her. But if you do want to participate in that, you can come to Harrison or Sierra from the 4th to the, for Harrison, you can come from the 4th to the 20th, and then Sierra's doing it from the 6th to the 10th. And also we have a clothing drive. You can bring your clothes in around the same time for that. Also, tomorrow we have a trunk or treat, and we'd love to see your guys there. I'm participating in one of them. We're doing the Bob's Burgers theme.
Really?
Sweet.
Who are you going to be?
Bob.
Of course you are.
Yeah. It was a really cool thing. I hope we don't break it taking it out of the room. But yeah, so it's over at 6. And recently, me and my leadership class went to Centennial and Soaring Eagles. And I have to say, I was nervous because I heard the elementary kids were really mean. But they were really nice. They loved participating in everything. They were a lot smarter than I thought they would be.
Oh, gosh.
So they knew if we were doing anything on the fly, and it was an interesting thing, but I really had fun. So yeah, make sure to stop by tomorrow and participate in the clothing drive.
It's in the parking lot?
It is in the parking lot. It's in the parking lot.
Okay.
Yes.
Before, and it ends at 6.
Ends at 6. I
Okay.
would tell you when it starts, but I have no clue. So
Roland,
Probably after school.
Roland,
so
could
there's
you
a
repeat
question.
the dates again?
Oh, from the 4th to the 20th, you can bring cans or food.
Okay. Thank
I
you for
mean,
clarifying.
cans or clothes. Sorry, guys.
Canned food or clothing. Okay.
Got it.
Thank you.
Doing that. Are you working with Karen Chair on the food drive, or where are you donating the food to?
Actually, we're going to distribute it ourselves.
Oh,
I probably should have mentioned that. So we're distributing it ourselves. Oh, that just reminded me. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm on the 4th. Also, we're gonna set up at 2 parks from 10 to 5. And I'll let you know the locations at a later date. We're going to see if Miss Holland will post it for us. But we're hosting where you can come on the 4th to bring cans or clothes, and we're going to take it back, and then we distribute it to the community that's on our list for our school. So if you guys can't bring it during the week, you can bring it on the 4th, which is Saturday.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Naisha.
I adore him. You guys don't understand. So yeah, that's one of the biggest things we have going on is our food drive. It's kind of a Harrison versus Sierra rivalry. Hopefully it's going to get a really good turnout. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. So to get those canned goods and those boxed goods out to families who don't necessarily have those things available to them is on the high priority list. And so I think we decided the losing school, the principal has to wear the opposing school mascot head.
Oh my goodness. I like that. I like that a lot better than taping somebody up to a wall.
That's
It was
That you guys.
well, it was my idea because I felt like Dr. Griffin would look really good in a panther head.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. We call our horse Stanley, and he looks good on anyone.
I know. I didn't really have a choice. We were at a game, and I just like, you're gonna do this, okay, cool, bye. And then I left.
Leave it on the voicemail. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
This week at school was our Red Ribbon Week, and if you don't know what that is, it is our commitment to staying drug-free in our community. So we had Islander Day, and we all wore lays, and it was lay off of drugs. We had a hat day, put a cap on drugs, and just fun things like that that reiterate a healthy community. Today was the last game for the girls volleyball. Season is done. Varsity kicked butt all year. I'm super proud of them. And C Squad, they're so much better than last year because they all moved up and they all learned a lot. So I'm excited for next year's volleyball team. And first quarter just recently ended for all of us. I thought that turned out pretty good. How was your first quarter?
I don't even know if I want to be in high school right now. Just gonna tell you.
I thought it was super. Ended it with a bang. And so with that first quarter ending, my junior class, we have a little program. It's called Gear Up. It's college readiness, and we started talking about different scholarships and things that are going to help us pay for and get through college. So things like the Daniels Fund Scholarship that I'm going to be applying for, going for next year, the Coca-Cola Scholarship, the Harrison Matching Scholarship, and all these super fun things we are being aware of and being exposed to.
So important. So important. So that's great to hear.
Because then you learn how much college is, and you're like, oh, yeah. Myself personally, my brother turned 19 yesterday. That's exciting. He is also a stallion. And I am stepping down from my position in my 4-H club as the president, 2 years running to be the historian. I'm super excited. My vice president is going to take my place, and I'm excited to see how she does.
Fantastic.
Exciting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Exciting times. Always exciting being in and around the high schools. So moving on to the superintendent's consent agenda, we have both the personnel report and the financial statement. Have you all had an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
Any questions or comments? I would entertain a motion relating to the superintendent's consent agenda.
I move to approve the superintendent consent agenda items as stated.
I second it.
Moved by Mrs. Torres, seconded by Mrs. Longmire. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Moving on to 9.1, approval of the minutes from September 5th and September 21st. Joyce, I can't tell you how much I'm going to miss you. Because I actually had to read them this time so that I could get like read them closely. Like I always scan them, but I really had to. It's a lot of work. It is, and I've always been able to rely on you getting it done, man. It's gonna
Norma's
kill
a
me.
good partner for that, so we did them all and they're fine.
Good. Okay. Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to approve the board consent agenda.
I move to approve the board consent agenda items as stated.
I second it.
Moved by Mrs. Longmire, moved by Mrs. Torres, seconded by Mrs. Longmire. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So before I adjourn, I just want to say Christina Randall is up for Teacher of the Year. Do we know when that's going to come? When the decision on that is coming? When do they choose them? By November 1st, which means it could be any day now.
Yay.
I'm dying.
Everybody.
Good. Okay. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.